Hello comparison test viewers, and welcome back to another All Cars Everyday video. I'm standing here with the brand new 2021 Chevy Trailblazer as it aims to take on the competition in the subcompact SUV segment. Here is the 2021 Encore GX, which was a new model in Buick's lineup last year. And here is the 2021 Chevy Trax, which used to be Chevy's smallest SUV until the Trailblazer came around. I'm comparing these three SUVs in 7 different categories and declaring an advantage to a particular SUV in each of those 7 categories. Furthermore, I'm comparing them at a specific trim level, and I won't be adding any options or packages to those trim levels to keep the comparison test as fair as possible. So more specifically, I'm comparing the LT versions of the Trax and Trailblazer to the Select version of the Encore GX. With that out of the way, let's look at our first area of evaluation, which is going to be value. In this category, we take a look at the MSRP of each vehicle and then look at the standard features offered for that price. The 2021 Buick Encore GX Select has an MSRP of $28,695. For that money, the exterior of the small SUV comes with 18-inch machined aluminum wheels with high-gloss dark pockets, heated side mirrors, roof-mounted side rails, and different trim pieces than the base version trim. It also has LED daytime running lights and fog lights, but has halogen headlights and taillights. The final 2 features worthy of mention on the exterior are quiet tuning and keyless open. The former is one of Buick's primary pursuits that differentiates the brand from their Chevy underpinnings, and quite frankly, almost all other brands this side of a Rolls-Royce. Buicks are seriously quiet inside. The keyless entry allows ingress to the vehicle and the ability to lock it when leaving without ever using the fob, as seen on most new cars for sale today. Use that system to get inside the new Encore GX, and you will find cloth leatherette trimmed seats, the front row of which is heated. The driver's seat has 10 ways of power adjustment, including 2 ways of power lumbar support. The passenger has 4-way manual folding, but it also folds completely flat if need be. Behind the steering wheel is a 4.2-inch color driver information center that is reconfigurable to display important information like outside temperature, audio settings, fuel range, trip settings, and more. This screen is situated between an analog tachometer on the left and a speedometer on the right. Technology revolves around the 8-inch colored touchscreen infotainment system in the dashboard that has Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Sirius XM. This audio playing capability is routed through the Buick's 6-speaker audio system with an amplifier. Convenience features include 1 USB Type-C charge port and 1 USB Type-A charge port. Of course, there is also a media connection USB port. The steering wheel is leather wrapped, and the Buick also has remote start, push button start, and an electronic parking brake. The 4G LTE Wi-Fi connection provides convenience for the passengers, but also allows the Encore GX to have Buick Connected access. This is an app that can be downloaded on the driver's smart device that can lock, unlock, start, and track the vehicle remotely. It's complimentary initially, but turns into a subscription service later on. Finally, there's dual-zone automatic climate control and a 60/40 split-folding rear seat. The 2021 Trailblazer is a brand new model for the brand as they try and capture the full realm of the SUV market, and in particular, a younger demographic and empty nesters looking to downsize. The LT all-wheel drive version we are testing has an MSRP of $26,695, and the exterior comes with 17-inch high-gloss black aluminum wheels with a machined face and roof-mounted side rails. Lighting starts with halogen headlights and taillights and ends with LED daytime running lights and fog lights. The LT also has keyless open to allow passengers into the little SUV without using the fob. Step into the interior, and the driver is greeted with a 10-way power seat including 2 ways of power lumbar adjustment. The passenger sticks with a manual seat with 4 ways of adjustment, but both front seats are heated. Ideal for the snowbelt states. All seats are trimmed in cloth, and the rear seats fold in 60/40 sections to increase the usability of both the seats and the cargo hold out back. Speaking of usability, the passenger seat folds flat, as seen in the Buick, which I'm assuming was included for the purpose of sleeping. Technology in this new model includes 2 screens, the 7-inch Chevy Infotainment 3 color touchscreen in the middle of the dash, and the 2.5-inch black and white driver information center in the gauge cluster. Situated in between an analog tachometer on the left and the speedometer on the right, this screen is reconfigurable to display key vehicle information, such as tire pressure, fuel range, oil life, the trip odometer, and more. Chevy infotainment systems are some of the quicker responding units I have dealt with over the years, and this iteration is no different. It comes with Bluetooth, wireless Apple CarPlay compatibility, and Android Auto. This audio playing capability runs through the Trailblazer's 6-speaker audio system that includes an amplifier. As for convenience features, the Chevy has remote and push-button start, an electronic parking brake, single-zone manual climate control, and USB ports that are either charge-only or immediate connection ports. Finally, the Trailblazer has Chevy Connected Access with 4G LTE Wi-Fi, so the driver can download the app on their smart device and have remote control over the vehicle, as seen in the Buick. The 2021 Trax LT begins with an MSRP of $24,815 and is no longer technically the entry-level Chevy SUV, which is now the Trailblazer. On the outside, there are 16-inch painted aluminum wheels, heated mirrors, and roof-mounted side rails. The headlights are halogen, but there are LED daytime running lights and tail lamps. The Trax has remote entry with a push of the button on the fob, but not keyless open, where you can unlock the vehicle just by having the key fob somewhere on your person, like in the Trailblazer and Buick. Inside, you will find a 4-way manual driver's seat and 2-way manual passenger seat. Seats in the Trax are trimmed with a cloth leatherette mix, and the rear seats fold in 60/40 sections. Unfortunately, folding them is at least a 2-step process every time because you have to fold the seat cushion up against the front captain's chair and then the seat back down like normal. Other than the Trax's corporate cousin, the Encore, this is something I haven't seen before and something other tiny SUVs seem to have all solved. The whole process was annoying and the mechanisms didn't inspire confidence that they would hold up over time. Technology in the Trax is focused mainly on 2 screens, the Chevy Infotainment 3 screen that's on a 7-inch color touchscreen, and the 3.5-inch monochromatic driver information center that's on the right of the analog fuel gauge, speedometer, and tachometer. It can be reconfigured to show different bits of key driver information like trip distance, fuel economy, outside temp, and more. However, to change this information, you have to press buttons and spin knobs on one of the steering wheel stalks, which again is something I've never seen when reviewing a car. Usually, to control this screen, there are steering wheel mounted buttons or a button at the bottom of the actual gauge cluster. I found the system frustrating to use. The infotainment screen supports Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a Sirius XM subscription. It plays music through the Trax's 6-speaker audio system. Convenience features in the Trax include a 12-volt power outlet, a 120-volt house-style outlet, single-zone manual climate control, and 2 USB ports. It also has remote start and Chevy Connected Access with 4G LTE Wi-Fi. Though the Wi-Fi can also be used by passengers, it's mainly to give owners remote access to the Trax through an app on their smart device. This is the same service seen in both the Trailblazer and Encore GX. The Encore GX is exactly $2,000 more expensive than the Trailblazer, which itself is more or less $2,000 more expensive than the Trax. As far as I can tell, the Buick has 1-inch bigger wheels, heated mirrors, Sirius XM, and a bigger infotainment and gauge cluster screen. Other than those features and dual-zone automatic climate control, the Trailblazer pretty much matches the Buick. I don't think those features are worth a $2,000 price hike, so the Trailblazer has a better value than the Buick. The Trax offers significantly less than either of the others, but if you choose a variety of packages ranging from $450 to $650, you can get most of the key features it is missing relative to the Trailblazer for about the same price. However, you still wouldn't get the 10-way seats or the LED fog lights. For that reason, I think the Trailblazer has the best value proposition of the 3, and it will get the advantage in this category. In this category, we take a look at the standard active safety technology of each vehicle, as well as reviewing the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety's passive crash test results. Unfortunately, only the Trax has a rating from the IIHS so far, as the Trailblazer and Encore GX are too new still and have not yet been tested. As such, we will evaluate this category based on standard active safety this time. The Buick has automatic emergency braking, front pedestrian braking, lane keep assist with lane departure warning, lane change alert with side blind zone alert, forward collision alert, a following distance indicator, rear cross traffic alert, and IntelliBeam. IntelliBeam is GM's word for automatic high beam assist, which can sense oncoming traffic and turn off your brights to prevent you from blinding them. The teen driver system can set limits on certain vehicle features like speed, audio level, and more, as well as sending a report card on the teens driving to the parents after they are done. Even though the Trailblazer isn't Chevy's flagship SUV by any means, it does have a good amount of active safety equipment standard, including automatic emergency braking, forward collision alert, front pedestrian braking, a following distance indicator, lane keep assist with lane departure warning, IntelliBeam, and that teen driver system like we talked about in the Buick. The Trax LT doesn't come with any standard active safety features. Instead, they're part of an options package that costs $495. It's a pretty skimpy package, providing only the rear cross traffic alert, side blind zone alert, and rear parking assist. The Trax is rated the highest rating of good everywhere in IIHS testing, except the ease of use for the child seat anchors and small overlap test on the passenger side, which were both rated acceptable. In this category, the Buick gets the advantage, offering a plethora of systems standard over the Trax, even with optional equipment, and including rear cross traffic alert and lane change with side blind zone alert over the Trailblazer. In this category, we take a look at the engine, transmission, 0 to 60 time, and other performance features that are relevant to each vehicle. The 2021 Encore GX and Trailblazer both come with the Ecotec 1.3-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine with 155 horsepower and 174 pound-feet of torque. Power is routed through a 9-speed automatic to all 4 wheels. If buyers were to opt for front-wheel drive, they get a 1.2-liter engine and a CVT automatic transmission standard, which is an important differentiation between the two drivelines. The Ecotec has stop-start technology in the name of fuel economy, and the Encore GX 0 to 60 takes 8.7 seconds in the all-wheel drive model we are evaluating. The only official 0 to 60 time reported for the Trailblazer so far is 9.4 seconds, but I believe this is much too slow for this vehicle and may have been hampered by driver error or testing conditions, such as track surface, altitude, or weather. Expect a mid 8-second 0 to 60 time in reality, closer to the Buick. The Trax has a 1.4-liter Ecotec turbo 4-cylinder engine, which makes a paltry 138 horsepower and 148 pound-feet of torque. In 2015, this may have cut it in the American market, but I think the new GM 1.3-liter would be more adequate for this SUV. Power is routed through another older piece of hardware, the 6-speed automatic transmission. It allows drivers to select the gear themselves with a shifter, but this is an otherwise uninspiring powertrain. Power is routed to all 4 wheels when necessary, resulting in a 9.3 second 0 to 60 mph run. In this category, both the Encore GX and Trailblazer get the advantage, as they have identical powertrains. I'm sure the Trax will switch to the same powertrain offerings as these two in its next generation. In this category, we take a look at how efficient those powertrains are by looking at their miles per gallon, their average fuel range, and their yearly fuel cost. The Encore GX gets 26 miles per gallon in the city and 29 mpg on the highway, for 28 combined mpg. The Trailblazer gets the same city mileage, but bumps up the score 1 mpg to 30 on the highway, with the same combined 28. The Trax brings up the rear with 24 in the city, 29 on the highway, and 26 mpg combined. The Buick and Trailblazer both have a 370-mile fuel range to the Trax's 364, and both the Buick and Trailblazer also would cost $1,168 per year to fill up, assuming gas is $2.22 a gallon and 15,000 miles are driven annually. That's comparable to the Trax's cost of $1,258. In this category, the Trailblazer and Encore GX again get the advantage, primarily because of their updated powertrains that also happen to be more efficient. In this category, I take a look at the projected reliability of each vehicle as predicted by Consumer Reports. They extensively test every new vehicle for sale and use historical data to try and accurately forecast new car reliability. They rate each vehicle on a scale from much worse than average to much better than average. The Encore GX and Trax are both rated average reliability, and the Trailblazer gets a rating of worse than average. Remember that these ratings are brand new for 2 of the 3 cars here, so don't weigh too much of your purchasing decision on this. More testing is required before I can confidently say that the Trailblazer is worse off in dependability than the other 2, especially considering that it shares a powertrain with the Encore GX. Functionality is where I wrap up the loose ends of the comparison and include important buying factors that are relevant to purchasing these vehicles, but don't fit into other categories, such as interior dimensions, warranty, and cargo capacity. All 3 vehicles come with the same warranty, which is a 3-year, 36,000-mile general warranty and a 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. All vehicles also seat a maximum of 5 people with those 60/40 split-folding rear bench seats. Let's check out the dimensions of all seating positions, though, because that is one of the main differences between the 3 vehicles. All 3 are within ½ an inch of each other in front headroom, and the Trax has the most of the 3 in the rear row. However, the spread between most and least is only 7/10 of an inch. The Trax, living up to its tall and narrow stature, has the least front and rear shoulder room by more than an inch in the front and at least 8/10 in the rear. Pretty small differences still. The Trailblazer has the most front hip room, but is down almost 2 inches in rear hip room to the Encore and 5 full inches to the Trax in this category. The Trailblazer makes up for that somewhat with the most rear legroom by 3.4 inches over the Encore and 3.7 inches over the Trax. Of all of these measurements, rear legroom is probably the most important because anyone that sits back there will be subjected to it, whereas shoulder and hip room only really matter when the rear bench seat has its maximum 3 passengers. When it comes to cargo space, the Trailblazer has the most with 25.3 cubic feet of space in the cargo hold, compared to 23.5 in the Encore GX and 18.7 in the Trax. The Trailblazer maintains the lead even with the seats down, where it has a very healthy 54.4 cubic feet to the Encore GX's 50.2 and the Trax's 48.4. This mostly makes sense as the Trailblazer is the longest of the 3 dimensionally. What doesn't make sense is that the Trailblazer seems smaller to me on the outside than either of the other 2. I thought maybe this was because because it had a lower ground clearance than the other two, but it actually has the highest at 8 inches to the GX's 7.5 and the Trax's 6.2. Impressive packaging from Chevy on the Trailblazer. In this category, the Trailblazer takes the cake. As mentioned, it has the biggest interior dimensions where it matters the most, and it's got the biggest cargo hold as well as ground clearance. In this category, I do a light design analysis of the vehicles from my point of view. Of course, this category is completely subjective, so feel free to substitute in your own opinions as I go through what I think looks good and what could use work. The new Encore GX puts the headlights high on the front of the vehicle, possibly in an attempt to increase the visual height of the vehicle and convince buyers that it's more of an SUV than it really is. It looks remarkably like a downsized Ford Edge, which is generally a compliment. The rear of the vehicle takes a page out of the Hyundai Kia book with a steeply raked rear window and horizontal, high-mounted brake lights. It's my favorite angle of the car. The side profile has a hard crease starting in the rear passenger doors that runs above the door handles into the taillight, and a similar crease can be found on the hood. Overall, the exterior is a cohesive, more modern design than the regular Encore, despite being mostly unoriginal. The Trailblazer looks like a mini Blazer, which in turn looks like the Camaro of SUVs. It's an aggressive design in this segment of typically cute utes, which by itself may make a better selling proposition for anyone not looking to be in an SUV that's been relegated to the cute ranks, but still wants a smaller SUV for urban driving, price, or fuel economy purposes. It's got a mean face that, again, is reminiscent of the current generation Camaro, with a gaping grille and high-mounted running lights that the headlights encroach on from below. The side profile of the vehicle makes a solid attempt at visually lengthening the SUV, with the roof extending out beyond the raked rear window. Also adding to the visual width is the cut line that starts under the side mirror and droops off in the passenger door, only to be replaced with a more subtle change in surfacing that leads to the taillights. That latter change also makes it so that the Trailblazer has a wider stance out back, directly conflicting the C-pillar's steep diagonal into the cabin. All of this has the effect of creating a sportier stance out back. Speaking of out back, the rear of the vehicle is attractive, but not nearly as aggressive as the front. From this angle, it has lost much of the sporty, in-your-face appeal of the front. Nevertheless, this is not a deal breaker for this otherwise well-executed design. I will lament the use of the floating roof as it becomes a cop-out signature in the SUV segment, but I'll admit that it has more of a purpose on this car, considering you can get two-tone paint schemes with the roof being a different color. The Trax got a facelift in 2017, which was an improvement over the previous look, but now is not enough to keep the Trax looking competitive even against its own family with the Trailblazer, Blazer Equinox, and even Tahoe. The front of the vehicle is still appropriate for 2021, and I think the headlights are shaped in a way that gives the vehicle a defined brow line. That brow line, combined with the eager grin that is the front grille, makes the Trax look like it's up to no good, and like other Chevy SUVs, avoids the cute label that plagues so many small lifted vehicles. The side profile hasn't changed much since the Trax made its international debut in 2012, and it shows. This vehicle seems to be much taller than competition despite similar exterior measurements and height, possibly because of a high and rising beltline. The wheel wells each have their own protrusion, which was maybe an attempt at making the Trax have an athletic stance, but instead it just adds to the tall, top-heavy demeanor. The rear hasn't changed really at all since 2012, and it screams rental car. The taillights are positioned a little too far out, and their shape flowing outwards makes it seem wider than the car really is, which clashes hard with the otherwise very upright styling. The interior is the nicest part of the Encore GX stylistically, with a perfectly oriented screen and climate controls, and an attractive transmission tunnel design that is oriented toward the driver's seat. The steering wheel and gauge cluster look like they could suffer from being dated in a couple years, but are apropos for the time and price point of the vehicle. The dashboard itself rides the line between busy and unique. Where the dash butts into each door is a confluence of lines and layers all coming together, which you'll have to decide for yourself whether that's appealing or not. I personally like it, even though it goes against the current trend of simplifying and widening the interiors of cars. The interior of the Trailblazer looks more upmarket than its well under $30,000 price tag would suggest. The steering wheel does a good job of mimicking the sporty style of the front of the vehicle, with bumps for fists at 9 and 3 and a wide, racier style in the center and for the controls. The gauge cluster is pretty traditional for this brand, but the rest of the dashboard looks very functional with the screen mounted simply above the climate controls. It looks clean without looking like it's merely missing features compared to a more expensive SUV, which is an elusive thing to accomplish in this segment. The inside of the Trax is in need of an update, like the exterior. The steering wheel is too upright in design, but at least that aligns well with the theme of the exterior. The gauge cluster goes against the industry standard when it comes to screens, and the infotainment screen is shrouded under the drooping middle part of the dashboard. Very obvious lines in the dashboard imply easy cost cutting to adapt the dashboard to either a right-hand drive or left-hand drive unit. Finally, the transmission tunnel is easy to use and functional, but has no identity and does a bad job of separating the front passengers stylistically. Though I like the Buick's interior the best of the three, I think the Trailblazer is the whole package. It's got an exterior that isn't going to be anonymous in traffic, and a well-done interior, especially for its price point. As such, it gets the advantage. These three aren't really meant to be cross-shopped per se, as they would be cannibalizing each other's sales. As a result, I can't declare a winner or loser here, although I would mention that of these three, the Trax would only make sense on the most specific budget that isn't allowed over $24,000. And if budget is a primary concern of yours, I would consider looking at less expensive trims of the Trailblazer. It's actually the new entry-level Chevy. That said, there could be steep discounts at dealerships on the Trax, so it may be cheaper versus the Trailblazer in real life. Regardless, were it my money, I would park the Trailblazer in my garage. It has the same powertrain and very similar features to the Buick for $2,000 less, and I wouldn't even say it lacks anything against the more expensive SUV stylistically. The choice is yours among these three offerings from General Motors, but I hope this comparison cleared up the differences between the models. If you enjoyed this comparison, feel free to leave a like. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.